Why not? That
Why
will
not?
work for me.
Could call it why not? No, so I pressed the button now because we were still trying to figure out how to introduce this because Peter said he's gonna do some speeches now, and he said he did that before. He did it on stage, and I was the entire time I was trying to figure out what it was, and I thought it was like a poetry slam. So I asked him, could we call it, introduce it as a poetry slam? But it isn't really. And then I thought it was stand up comedy, but it's not that either. So just show me.
Okay. Well, um, normally there would be someone who would give me or a participant a topic to talk on for 1 to 3 minutes. And so,
Okay,
and
it's
then
just a random topic.
random topic. Random topic. Random topic is something I'm very good at because, I am very
Yeah,
familiar with
okay,
being
you're very
random.
random. Yes, yes. Okay. Well, if you wanna use random topic as the topic,
Well, no, I just thought you said random topic, so that's
oh,
why.
sure, you can use that as the topic if you want to.
Um, well, that's what I was. My idea is for the next sort of 3 or 4 short videos I do, or maybe more so often, I'm just going to sort of, it'll be short, so it won't be hopefully too painful because they will be under 2 minutes, maybe under a minute, and where I get someone to give me a topic to speak on, and it could be on, Captain Jean-Luc Picard. It could be on,
Oh yeah, you're a Star Trek fan like me. Okay, then
yes,
I have a topic. This one is gonna be a bit of a challenge.
yes.
Um, the topic is the new J.J. Abrams Star Wars movies.
A good Star Trek fan will approach J.J. Abrams. Of course, I challenged now to say his name because it's hard to reverence that man. But on the other hand, it's really one should have a love or hate relationship with him because while he has not understood what Star Trek is about and has, where's the science? Where's the philosophy? Where's the intellect? Where's the plot? But nevertheless, he's got it back. And if that's not something to be grateful for, what is? So let's love and hate him.
Yeah, no, but you were supposed to Star Wars movies.
Ah, I thought you were sort of insulting his Star Trek movies by
Star Wars movies, didn't he? So
Star Wars. Well,
that's why I said it's a challenge. Talking about Star Trek would be too easy.
Star Wars.
Yes, you're supposed to talk about
Okay.
Star Wars movies. You weren't even necessarily supposed to talk about J.J. Abrams. You were supposed to talk about the new Star Wars movies.
Ah, okay. I saw them. Saw one where a stormtrooper. Okay. Okay, this is a little bit harder, but okay. I wasn't sort of when one is given a topic which is not worthy of one's attention, when you are given something that is not important, that is something that can be discarded because it's Star Wars, I can just move on and talk about Star Trek because The great beauty of Star Wars is it makes Star Trek look better. That's all just a joke. That's all a joke. No, that was a joke. That was a complete joke. Star Wars, the new movies. Well, I've only seen one. And well, Luke dies. I thought Star Wars was all about Luke, and he dies.
You're giving away the spoiler. I haven't seen it yet. Well, I'm never gonna see it, but you know, I might have. Probably not.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but you wanted me. So you wanted me to talk about it without actually talking about it.
Well, you could have talked about it without giving away the spoilers. I didn't know Luke was gonna die.
He didn't
If I
die.
knew Luke was gonna die.
He didn't die.
You talk about it.
He didn't die. That was a joke on my part.
Yeah, sure. Well, I don't care either. But didn't he die? Well, isn't he? Oh no, he lost his hand. Right, he didn't die in the first ones. He lost his hand. Yeah, but I always imagined him not dying, but instead becoming like Darth Vader.
Well, he has a son.
Yeah, in a new one though, right? Yeah,
I think so. I mean,
that's messed up though, because I thought that if he ever is gonna have a son, it's gonna be with his sister or something. Yeah, but because he kind of had a relationship with his sister in the first ones.
Well, then they found out they were brother and sister. So
yeah, okay, and then
so
she.
It was Han Solo, sort of that.
Then she went and banged Harrison Ford, and then she died. So that would have actually made more sense for Leia to die because the actress is dead.
Yes. I don't know. I'm not Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars has its place, and of course, you know, there are millions of fans of that show.
So what do you want to talk about then? Or let's narrow it down. From which topics should I give you a topic?
Well, basically, I just want to have a chat, so I don't really mind where the chat goes. So
you're making the same mistake again, though. I mean, I don't know if it's a mistake, but if you do it again, it's a mistake. I kind of feel that way. That's why I wanted to line out what we're gonna do. And you said, well, you're gonna do some public speaking, and then I give you a topic and stuff. And I thought, oh, okay, that's great. But you can't just have completely random conversations every time without some set structures.
No. Okay. What I really meant was I was just going to sort of say that part of what I intended to concentrate on for the next few videos that I make would be on practicing public speaking to video. So while I've done lots of public speaking, I haven't done it I have not used video as a tool to sort of perfect my craft, to get better, to see how I was. So watching.
So that's I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's something interesting. I need to interrupt you from time to time because otherwise it's gonna get too random. So
yes, that's fine.
So I feel that's interesting though. I mean, your experiences with public speaking. I mean, in front of a crowd and on stage and everything. Why don't you share a little about that?
Well, when I say public speaking, I also include any performance I've done. so like once, so while I do public speaking, I've also done some poetry, reading of some of my poems and some spoken word. And to me, it's all related because in my public speaking,
You've written poems. See, that's something interesting. You should have told me earlier. You've written poems.
I used to, many years ago, there was this band who performed in pubs, and while they had an intermission, I would perform some of my poetry.
Okay,
But
that's
that
interesting.
was a long time ago. That's like, you know, 10 lifetimes ago.
What kind of music were they playing?
Alternative rock music.
That's interesting. That's interesting. You still have some of your poems?
No, I've
You don't have them
like
anymore?
I used to write them down on paper, and there was one that people really laughed at because it was funny, and I'm very sad that I no longer have it. That, I mean, if I'd put it on a computer, then you know I would have probably have kept a record, especially with the cloud. So I remember parts of it, but
okay,
so
yeah, just give an example, and I'm interested now.
well, I feel I can't share all of it publicly because it was a bit
Dirty.
well, more implied. It was sort of it was
Only implied. Oh my, come on. You realize you're talking to a German, right? I mean, if I would be talking German now, and then it would be translated into English, you would have, you know, and it would be like on public television or something. Then I would just be like, hi Peter, how are you doing? You are beep, and then we beep, and beep, 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 beep.
oh no swearing.
Like I wouldn't even insult you or anything. You know, I would just talk normally.
No, there was no swearing. It was
No,
a sort of
swearing, but the Americans would think there would be swearing. I don't know about the Australians, but you know,
we're sort of in between the British and the US, and many British people say Australians don't realise how like the Americans Australians are. I don't know. I just know what people say to me. But it was a piece of comedy. It was about no, I'm sorry, I can't say because there will be people who may watch this who I'd be embarrassed for them to see it.
oh come on, you got to say it now.
No. Well, if anyone's watching who saw the poem which I did in honor of Lisa, please send me a copy so I can have a copy to refer to here. And it was sort of a love poem, but it wasn't seriously intended. It was sort of full of sort of.
Come on, say what you still remember.
Well, it had some cliches, something like a that does not endure. No, I can't remember. I mean, it went on. It go on for about 2 or 3 minutes. But it's such a long time ago. But there may be people who may have it, and I would censor it if I was to share it with you anyway. So, So it would be very different.
Okay. Okay. Well, no, I was interested in hearing the uncensored part actually, but okay. Um.
Well, it was 10 lifetimes ago. And
Okay.
it was it was meant to be funny, and people laughed, including the person I sort of wrote it in honor of.
Oh, it was funny, and it was meant to be funny. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um. Yeah.
It was.
You said something about Lisa.
Sorry, missed that.
Didn't you say something about Lisa?
Yeah, yeah. Yes, Lisa was an acquaintance of mine, but a friend of friends of mine, and something I can't. I don't know why I wrote after. Like I've talked to her about it, so like it's all fine. Although she might not be happy about me talking about this in such a public place, because when people heard the poem, they would have no idea who she was.
Yeah, so it doesn't
But
matter.
yeah, but there's always a chance that someone like there are people who know, people who know, people who know, and so I. But it was funny. It was meant to be funny, and I think when she heard it perform, she laughed. It was all great. And the tragedy is, I didn't keep a copy. Well, no, I think I used to remember it, but then it's just been too long. And I'm just trying to.
I know Elisa.
It's probably not after her.
Yeah, but her real name is Andreas, and always when the sun goes down, then Lisa, and he has that that rubber suit he wears, and then he transforms into Lisa. It's really quite interesting to see, yeah, and he's got his walk down, with his high heels and stuff, and yeah, she
Interesting.
she of course,
Interesting.
yeah. So since we're talking about anything anyway, last time you also mentioned that you did radio. Want to talk about that?
Many years ago, I used to have a spot where I would talk about on a regional commercial radio station outside of the Australian rules area in Australia, where I would talk about.
Wait. Outside the Australian rules? What does that mean?
So in Australia, one of the big national sports is Australian football, Australian rules football. So which is like not like the ball is shaped sort of a bit like a rugby ball or
You're talking about football?
When I say football, we call it here we call it football, footy, Aussie rules.
Okay.
So not a round ball. Not a round.
You were like a sports reporter then.
I would just ring in with I had a regular spot, and I would just report on things that I had heard about happening. But that was a long time ago.
Related to Australian football.
Yeah, as in Aussie rules, not the game you call football. So like,
I don't know what game do you? I mean, for me, football is like that game with the strangely shaped ball that everyone's carrying in their hands, and everyone is wearing like gear, and there's like a goal, and it's like 2 meters above the ground, and and then they start playing, but like every 5 seconds, they stop playing and regroup, and yeah, I never really understood it.
Okay, I think you're talking about North American football.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah. And I always confuse it with German football, and people always look at me strange when I give them that kind of description because they have no idea what I'm talking about.
yeah, well, what I would have thought most people in Europe would call football, I would call soccer. And so, you know, the World Cup. So that's not the game I'm talking about.
Well, in
And
Germany,
the game,
they're calling it Fußball anyway, which I found out. I actually found out that Fußball is an American word as well, but for them it's like table soccer or something.
yeah. And so what the US people then and the German people are saying then is not the football I'm talking about. Like the football I'm talking about is a bit like Gaelic football from Ireland, but with a different shaped ball and a few different, like we have international rules competition between Ireland and Australia because our games are so similar, but they modify the rules. So
okay, but I have no explain it.
sorry?
I'm saying I have no idea what Gaelic football is like.
Gaelic football is like Aussie rules, but it's not as rough and it's uses a round ball.
Yeah, but look, I don't know what Gaelic football is like, and I don't know what Aussie football is like. So is it like American football? Is it like rugby?
How do you explain? Well, one, we're going back to a very distant time in my life. So, but however, in the Republic of Nauru, which used to be part of the, you know, the German Empire a long time ago before the British took it away, on Nauru, Aussie rules is a national sport. I know that doesn't help you either.
No,
that's why it
actually doesn't.
Yeah, I said that as a joke. Sorry. And you know, years ago, I would have had a football here. I could have shown you a football. Oh, I know. I was. But I haven't played football in decades. Although I did go out and kick a football recently. So I'll think of a way another day to explain Australian rules football to you. Which
okay. Never mind. So when you did radio, so you were talking like about the gossip that's going on between the players or something. I mean, what was it?
Well, I would read up about what was going on and maybe talk to some people. And I had I think about 5-minute segment where I would talk on the show, but it was a long time ago, and I was probably a bit more structured, a bit more specific, and I was probably not so frustrating to people because I could speak on one thing. But I gave that up.
Yeah, you grew beyond that.
And oh no, I'm just trying to say that yeah, I can be more specific too. But it sort of
we have to do that someday.
Yes, And that was, I was intending to try and do that today, but I decided that it's a bit too hard.
Well, actually,
I should,
we intended to do that every time we talk, but you always ended up talking about all kinds of random things, which is fine.
yeah,
But it's just, it would be nice to have a structured talk as well.
yes, I can do structured talks. So maybe I will move on to a new topic. I'm going to do. Oh no, maybe I won't, since I haven't told you what I was going to do.
Tell me now. Tell me now.
Well, that does connect with Aussie rules as well. There's a suburb called Klemzig, which is where there were German sort of settlers who came, who left over religious reasons, when sort of, and they went to what became called Klemzig, and then they went other places. But then during the First World War, they changed the name of the suburb. And so there was this football club in the suburb, and it's called Gaza. And I've always been intrigued why it was called that. And that was because then I found out they had changed the name because of the war and sort of, the tensions that you have when you have wars. And so I was going to go and do some reporting on local history of the suburb. Well, at least that's what I'm thinking about.
That's an interesting place. I might go there someday if I have have to, probably. I don't know. Germans are difficult. I mean, especially nowadays. You think like, oh yeah, well, with 2 world wars and stuff, they have learned their lesson, but no. With now they're like, oh yeah, there's so many refugees, and like the place I'm living in, they're like there are like 2 people who were not born in the Federal Republic of Germany. 2 people, and it's like, well, it's a village, but it has like, I don't know, like 4,000 people in it. Okay, so among 4,000 people, there were only 2 people who were not born in the Federal Republic of Germany, and that's me and my wife. and
Were you born in the DDR?
No. My wife was born in Eastern Germany, and I was born in Spain, actually. But yeah, but even though there really are no migrants or whatever except us, everyone is so afraid. They're like, oh no, I might see a black person if I walk down the street. What do I do then? If you walk down a street in Germany, you never see a black guy. I don't think I've seen a black guy in my life, but they're like, oh, but I might someday see one. Ooh, terrible. Yeah. I don't, because they're not used to seeing black people, so they find the thought of it frightening for some reason, and now they're all going back to becoming Nazis.
Well, if they're not used to it, that might be, I don't think that makes someone a Nazi if they're just not used to something. As in, like,
well,
unless you're using the word Nazi in a very sort of, open-ended way, where anyone who sort of
well, if you use it in the original way, then there are no Nazis in Germany at all, as the National Socialist German Workers' Party was disbanded in 1945. So there could never be any Nazis again. Isn't that great?
Well, I suppose I mean that someone might be like, I live in a city where there are lots of different ethnicities, and like that's modern Australia. Um, I mean, I suppose in rural areas that might, well, I suppose that is different, but in the cities, it's like it's, you know, very multi-ethnic. Um, and I suppose people have got used to, you know, other people. So if people are not used to something, then unless they actually want to sort of round them up and put them in concentration camps, then to slaughter them, I wouldn't have thought that they're Nazis. That's all. Um,
I don't know. I mean, for me, a Nazi is also someone who believes in that ideology, isn't it? I mean, originally he would be a party member, but since the party has, it would be someone who believes in the ideology and maybe is a member of similar parties that no longer have socialists in their name, but that are obviously supposed to be parties following the National Socialist Party lines, so to say.
well, I recognize the fact that in Germany there would be divided opinion today in the way that might not be.
I'm gonna show you something.
A coin.
You can't see it. There's not enough light. I wanted to show you, but there's not enough light. How do I get light? I don't have light. Now you can. Now you can see it. There's
Not a coin.
Light.
It is a coin. It's not a coin.
No, it's not a coin actually. Wait. now it looks like what's it called? I forgot what it's called. That movie. Well, never mind. Let's see.
I2? Not I2? That's not a letter I, it's an L.
Okay, I have to. Okay, now I have to keep speaking, otherwise the camera switches back to you. Can you see it now? Kind of, a little.
I don't recognize the unless it's a torch in the middle.
Well, it's an eagle. Standing on a swastika. Holding hammer and sickle in its wings. Can you see it? And there's a mannequin above that, but you can see it now, right?
Sickle and a nut. And interesting.
The eagle is like the Nazi eagle, you know, sitting on the swastika and holding a hammer and sickle in its hand, not hands, in its wings.
Yeah, what year is it from?
It says it on there. 1934. I got that from the Hitler Youth uniform of my grandfather. It's something that you could wear on your uniform, you know. So you know, nowadays everyone calls you know, Nazis wasn't even the original word. Nazi is just an what do you call it? Approbation, right? abbreviation, right? Abbreviation. It's an abbreviation of National Socialist German Workers' Party. And that's just way too long. And then you would have to say, oh, he's a follower of the National Socialist German Workers' Party, which is, way too long. So they abbreviated it as Nazi. But nowadays that people don't even use the term Nazi anymore. They use like fascist or something. And that's somewhat deliberate.
Well, I've just got your icon, your in front of me, your symbol, INSOC, so I can't actually see you or hear you. Oh, now I can see you.
Oh, I broke up. Okay, well, now I don't know how much how much was transmitted. Anyway, now we're back. But
For the, well, for
I
the
talked
last
a lot.
10
But
seconds, I couldn't hear you for the last,
yeah.
I suppose now 15 seconds ago, I couldn't hear you.
No, well, I was just gonna say that in Eastern Germany, Eastern Germany was also ruled by a socialist party, was called the Socialist Unity Party. It keeps going away. You still there?
You know what it said? It just said you joined the call. That was so funny.
That's nice.
I thought you were already here. Who
Yeah.
have I been speaking to all this time?
I just wanted to say that Eastern Germany was also ruled by a socialist party, and they do kind of realize that they were both calling themselves socialist. So they didn't use that term, even though the Nazis themselves actually called themselves National Socialists. So anyway, yeah, and because of that, you actually have in Germany, yes, because you said Germany is very divided, and that's true. You have a lot of right-winged extremists, and you have a lot of left-winged extremists, and they think that they're opposing each other, but in actuality, they're not. In actuality, they're rather similar. So at least that's my observation.
Well, I think societies have to be open, but they have to be open to the extent that the population can cope with the openness. And if you try to impose things on a population, you might get divided thought. So,
well, but no one is imposing anything. I mean, I don't know.
well,
I don't really get what the big deal is, because, like I said, I still haven't seen a single black person in Germany like ever.
I find, I think, classifying people from race is not a very good thing to do. So, but I would imagine that if you're in a village of 4,000 people, I'm assuming Berlin is different, and there would be a great variety of sort of.
Yeah, I guess if I would stay in Berlin for a week or something, then maybe I might eventually see a black person. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I am interested in German history, so I'm interested in Germany now, and I've been following some of the debates that have been going on, and though I suppose
Are there a lot of people in Australia that are afraid of immigrants? Is it like in Germany that where people are like afraid of what they don't know?
well, from my perspective, that how like we live in smaller and smaller space, the prices go up for housing. Our roads are a lot more crowded than what they used to be. And so I'm not sure if that's to do just with sort of, immigrants coming in, but part of the shift in our numbers has not been sort of, people born here. It's because so many people have been brought in to Australia. And so like in the past, people would often known people in their streets, their neighbours,
Oh,
which
but see,
doesn't.
Australia is a country where people always came in. Not originally from Australia. Everyone immigrated to
Yeah,
Australia,
yeah,
except
yeah,
maybe
yeah.
the
I don't.
Aborigines. But
Yeah, yeah. But I'm talking in terms of numbers, in terms of like it used to be as a measurement, we talk about a quarter at a block for people to live on, and now people live, at least half of that generally, like in where the new housing's gone up. So I'm not. So there can be tensions, but the people who run the country wouldn't want those sort of. No, it's important to have a society that's open that brings in immigrants. Like sort of that's how you allow your economy to sort of be open and have development. But it has to be at the pace at which sort of the population can, like the pre-existing population can sort of um, easily sort of mould with.
yeah, well,
But you would say
I don't
no.
know. I think it also has to do with the media, because they always try to make stories out of everything. So, but I feel like if I don't know. Yeah, well, it's not easy, especially if you have refugees from like Syria, and well, actually, a lot of those refugees from Syria, they're actually, fleeing extremists, right? But still, it's in culture. So, it would be great if those people who came from those countries, if there would be someone, who kind of were to explain the cultural differences a little, and maybe the same with the media, instead of instilling fear into the people. I don't know if they do that in Australia, but there's a lot of media in Germany who's trying to instill fear into people, fear of migrants, or fear of refugees. So I'm thinking like, well, instead of doing that, and instead of creating and increasing the tensions, wouldn't it like make more sense to have like articles that would decrease the tension, by just explaining a little how the culture works and stuff like that.
Um, I think it would be good, like on our national broadcaster, the ABC, they would, and SBS, other national broadcaster, that they would always present a positive story about refugees, and then you might see others saying along the lines of what you're saying. But it's probably better to have sort of to report from different perspectives, and sort of when there are sort of problems, to report on them and not try and hide them, because if you don't confront problems, you can't change them. So
it's difficult, you know, because do it the right way. You know, a lot of yeah, the I don't even want to call them right-winged extremists. They were not originally right-winged extremists, but because everything has been hyped up so much by the media, they became afraid, and then they became basically right-winged extremists. So a lot of the right-winged extremists in Germany, they're calling the mainstream media. It's a German term. It's Lügenpresse. It means lying
press,
lying press.
lying media.
Yeah, and that's what they call it. You know, and in German, in German, it's one word, and you know, and they just call it that every time. You know. Yeah, because they feel that that they're reporting on the refugees too positively, and they don't believe. Yeah, well, now they don't believe anything that they're saying if the mainstream media is reporting on refugees positively. But if the mainstream media is reporting on refugees negatively, then they, of course, still believe it. And that's actually how they got how they got scared and how they became right-winged extremists in the first place. Is because they heard the negative reports in the mainstream media, and they believe those. And every time there's a positive report in the mainstream media, then, oh well, that's just lies.
Yeah, well, I think positive and negative have to both be reported. And then if someone only hears positive or negative,
one side completely, you know, just that doesn't exist. There are no good refugees. They're all evil. So yeah, it's very difficult. It's very difficult because if it's at that point and then you start increasing the amount of positive reporting on refugees, then you're just gonna make it worse.
Well, in Australia, like the ABC, so the ABC stands for the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, which is our big national broadcaster. So like the BBC and ARD, that's all different type of channels, isn't it? Into one in Germany. So I'll just refer to the BBC and the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. So like them, and from my perspective, they would often want to provide very positive when other media is talking about some things that have been going on, which are not so nice. And if you don't report both, then it's not surprising when someone may have a perspective and they stop listening if they don't hear things that they already know about, sort of and eventually, yeah. So I mean, it's like I find it a very difficult issue, and it is.
The truth is what agrees to their preconceived, and whatever doesn't, they call lies.
Well, I'm not in Germany, though I have, read things in the press, and like for a while, we were in Australia, we were taking when the Vietnam War, well, what the Vietnamese would have called the American War, we were taking Vietnamese refugees years ago, decades ago, and there was a lot of fear among many people. But now the governor, which is a ceremonial post in my state, is a Vietnamese refugee, and that's not controversial. But back then, there were a lot of people who were very opposed to Vietnamese refugees coming in, and like it sometimes takes a while for a population to show that that they're going to fit in. And then there was some problems with and at the time I didn't believe them because the Vietnamese people I came across were good, but there was some crime in famous Cabramatta. So I think it's important to know that when people come in and may not have the tools necessarily to fully integrate, not having German, for example, as to be communicate in Germany, there's going to be some difficulties, I would have thought. And
we should have made this a separate video, and then it would have been yeah, that way it would have been more structured. We should say, okay, now we're gonna talk about yeah, well, the so-called refugee crisis. That would have been nice, but now we talked about that, and before that we talked about something else. So yeah, well,
and I have to say, I know refugee activists who would have a so they would talk completely like you.
Whoa, wait. So you're saying I'm a refugee activist now? Well, okay, well.
No. Sorry, I'm not saying.
At least you didn't call me a leftist or anything. Because
No. These people literally are refugee. They help bring refugees in. Like when the refugees come in, they assist the refugees.
Yeah, I actually did that once.
Well, with the utmost of respect, you just said you are one.
No, I did it. I said I did it one. I didn't. I'm not doing it anymore. But yes, I used to do that when I was living in another city where I was living close to a refugee center, and yeah, and a lot of people they never look into the conditions these people are living in, which are usually really bad. Nobody cares about it.
I think the connection's gone, and I can see. Can you hear me?
Just not talking.
Sorry. Well, no, the screen froze. Although I thought it froze for a second as well, but something happened, and sorry.
I was saying that the conditions the refugees are living in are really bad, and no one cares about it.
Well, we know some people do. Because you obviously care very deeply.
Well, not very deeply. It's just that I'm not completely oblivious to it.
Yes. I think the whole situation, it's just terrible. Sort of like when people have to leave or feel the need to leave or have to leave where they are and go into a different place with a different language. And I'm assuming the culture in Berlin is all over the place. At least that's what I get from German movies. that it's sort of.
Of Berlin.
I'm assuming Berlin is a very multicultural place.
Oh, yeah, well, Berlin itself is, yeah, well, but that's because it has all those different districts. You know, it's kind of like, I don't know, like a big American city where you have, like, I don't know, China, Italy, and each district basically has its own people, more or less. So it's multicultural in the sense that it includes all those districts, but it's not in the sense that within those districts people are not really mingling. I mean, you have that one district where you have people from such and such place, and then you have that other district where and then yeah.
Yes. Some people would say that's what happens here too. But I don't know.
Oh, no, but that's only I was only talking about Berlin.
Yeah.
But that's basically the only city that is like that.
Right.
Other cities in Germany are not like that.
And also I just think about when I called you like I don't see the term refugee activist as a term of abuse.
Yeah, but
So
like
especially since you were one as well. I mean,
yeah, but see, like the term lying press, so that's not the term
I don't see that as
some
a term
people
of
would
abuse
use.
either.
They have a derogatory term. Oh, yeah, which nowadays it's like uh, good Mensch, which means actually it means like good human. Now that has become a very derogatory term, used by like the alt right to make fun of all those people who are helping refugees, saying, "Oh yeah, well they pretending to be good people and they're pretending to be helping refugees, but in reality they're like the most evil people." So even such a term has become very derogatory now.
I just think the whole thing is very complex, and from my perspective,
I agree. I agree, and we should have made a separate video about it, because actually I think that was really interesting. I was really interested in hearing your opinion about that, as an Australian. Um, yeah, but we should have made it into a separate video. Now since we didn't really plan this, and we just ended up talking about all kinds of topics again.
I'm comfortable with that.
I know you are, but it's bad for the viewers, because you need to structure the videos, and you need to have a separate topic for each video. You can't talk about all kinds of topics in each video, because then people will just end up not watching the videos because they don't know what it's about, and they might only be interested in a specific topics and not in don't care
Okay,
about the
I
10
make
other
this
topics.
promise. I make this promise. For our next chat, I will have a very specific topic to talk about, because I can do that.
Okay, I might take you up on that.
I
um
mean,
we
it's
should we
not
should
my natural way of being, but I have often done that.
I know it's not your natural way of being, but if I might you know, if it's okay if I give you some advice, you know, I mean, it is also my natural way of being, and it was very difficult for me to uh to at least not do that every time, you know. And but I had to learn it, you know, and I'm still doing it, but at least I try to not do it every time, because if you really do it every time, it just doesn't work. So yeah, so if you
But sorry, I'm still taking the advice, but I just want to put in brackets. But that's why I feel that I will get better, because you know I don't. I'm assuming this video will be more better than the last one, and then the sort of first one. That sort. I could be wrong.
no,
That's
you're right, you're right. Okay, you no, you're right, you're right, and then you're right, you're right. And next
go
time
back to the advice.
we'll really focus on one topic.
Yes, I can do that.
Okay, okay. I gotta go.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye bye.